Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Amy, what's your bio?
All right, thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to London Tableau User Group and welcome to the Ohana floor. So this is the first ever Tableau User Group globally to be hosted on a Salesforce Ohana floor. So we're very excited to be here tonight. Before we get into the talks, I've just got a few updates from the TUG and just from the general London community. This is the London Tableau User Group leadership team. So we've got myself, Sarah Bartlett, we've got Paul Chapman, want to give us a wave? We've got Laura, who's sadly unable to join us tonight. We've got Pablo, who's helping us with tech. And we've got David, who's here. And yeah, that's all of us. So yeah, feel free to come and say hi and chat to us at the end of the event if you want to hear more about the user group and what we get up to. In terms of the London Tableau community, we just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we're all about. So we have 10 London-based visionaries. So some of them are in the house tonight, I think. Put up your hand if you're a visionary. Two down the front. You're not based in London, Neil, that's the problem. But yeah, these are the people you want to come and speak to if you've got any Tableau questions, no pressure. We also have 34 London-based visionaries. And all of the visionaries shown in bold here are actually new for 2022, which is really exciting. Put your hand up if you're a visionary. Sorry, ambassador. Cool. Okay. Well, again, these are the people you want to come and talk to if you've got any Tableau questions. The ambassador program is split into different streams. So we have Tableau Public. So these are people that are posting vizzes on Tableau Public and generally like posting those kind of like wow kind of vizzes. We've got the social ambassadors. So these are people who are active on social platforms or they're blogging. The forums are active on the Tableau forums. So answering questions for people. CRMA, it's the previously known as the Einstein. So the people come over from that community. We have the TUG ambassadors, so they run user groups, and also the student ambassadors. So those student ambassadors just serve for a one-year term while they are studying at the universities. In terms of like getting to know the community and, you know, what's hot, if you like, there's this great viz by his name escapes me. Josh, thank you, Josh Tapley in the US. So he puts this together to track Tableau Public activity. So on here, we can see the top authors by number of favorites on Tableau Public and where those authors are from. Typically, Andy Kriebel is like way above everyone else. There's like no catching him globally. But yeah, so you can see all the top authors. This was last updated in July. He updates it every couple of months. So it's a really good way of like seeing the top authors. I think Ellen is like storming through the charts, which is great as well. And you've got some random places that stand out, like where Simon lives is at the top of the list because you're the only person that lives there, like me. So yeah, go and check this out. I've got the link here and we'll share And I'll pass it over to Thierry and Amy.
Click.
Is it working?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryder. I'm the Data Enablement Manager within the Data Office at Jaguar Land Rover. Been at JLR for 5 years now, and I joined as
We're getting there, guys.
Sorry.
Hello.
This is my
There
fault.
we go.
Joined as an analytics graduate back in 2017. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Community Drivers Tableau user group. So shameless plug for our user group. It's joining people who lead communities in their own organizations and sharing lots of community driving activities. And I do that with Neil and Charlotte, who's not here today. Outside of work, I am involved in Girl Guides and Scouts, and I love baking. Yeah.
And I'm Thierry Driver. I've joined JLR in September last year as a data culture and enablement lead within the data office at JLR. So I work closely with Amy and driving adoption of Tableau in the organization. I used to work at Tableau in a previous life. I spent 5 years here in the marketing team, driving adoption of Tableau in academia, so across the EMEA region. And one of my passions is traveling. So I actually left Tableau in 2019 to travel the world with my wife, went to Southeast Asia, and I'm passionate about football as well. So what you can expect from this presentation today, so we're going to walk you through about Tableau's journey at JLR, talk a bit about some of the initiatives that we have taken to empower our workforce to be more data-driven, and then some of the steps that we have taken to building a data communities and a Tableau champions network as well at JLR, and then some of the key learnings as well along the way. But I thought we'll start with just pausing there. I know it's a bit kind of cliche, but when it comes to driving data culture at JLR and driving adoption of Tableau, we are on a journey. And actually, yeah, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, but with no finish line. So the program, Tableau has been at JLR for 5+ years. It has evolved a lot during that time. It's continued to evolve. So it's not, there's no end date to it. So I thought it will be worth mentioning. And with that, I would just give it to you, Amy, to set the scene a bit and talk a bit about how Tableau has the journey of Tableau so far at JLR.
Thanks, Thierry. So a bit of background, we had our first Analytics Centre of Excellence set up back in 2016. So we've had Tableau in JLR since around that point. With that, we started our first analytics community. So running our first version of our champions program, having a portal where you could go and find out information about Tableau, running our internal user groups similar to this. We have at JLR a self-service approach to analytics. So anybody in JLR is able to get a Tableau creator license. We have a really short certification form, which just goes through our governance of our platform, but it's not reserved for certain roles or anything like that. And although we do have the Centre of Excellence team and pockets of analytics teams across the business, it's not that you have to kind of submit your request to that team in order for your project to be done. Like anybody can do analytics. So we moved to Tableau Online from Tableau Server in 2020. And with that, we opened up access for all. So everybody in JLR has a viewer license. We auto assign our licenses based on our headcount every week. So you just need to log in with your work email address, and anybody can upgrade to a creator license as well. So a bit about our platform. Internally, we have one site with role-based operating model on it. So dependent on your function and your grade, depends on what default content you can see on the platform. And this really encourages the cross-functional collaboration with data. So functions can see what other functions are doing, and you can go into the platform for the first time and see what content exists without having to kind of go around asking everybody. So we took another step forward in our journey back in 2021 with the setup of our first data office within Jaguar Land Rover. And we also expanded our Tableau platform to external users as well. So we now have 2 external sites, one for our retailer network and one for our suppliers as well. And where we are today, we've got 3,500 creators and 7,000 viewers internally. But this isn't enough for us. So Jaguar Land Rover is currently undergoing a massive transformation program called Refocus. And at the heart of that is radical digital transformation. And this quote here comes from our CEO, who from the Refocus launch event last year. You can read it yourself, but data is every part of our business, no matter what business area you're in. And we believe that data capabilities are for every role to relevant degrees, but everybody within the business has some interaction with data, whether or not data or analytics or anything like that is in their job title. So those numbers that you saw with the 10,000, that's only a quarter of our workforce. So we've still got a long way to go. So with the data office, we were able to kind of take a step back from the organic growth of Tableau as a platform and really set up some of those foundations to enable us to go the next level. So as I mentioned, we've got the role-based access on our platform. So this has been really encouraging for people that when we spoke to people previously, the reason that they weren't sharing their Tableau content necessarily was because they didn't know who they were allowed to share it with. By setting up an operating model and having some definitions of if your data is public, then it should be available to everybody within the business. If it's confidential, then we recommend its managers and things like that. Just putting some guidance and structure in place has enabled people to start sharing data. The data steerco was something that we set up. So this is our steering committee. For the first time in JLR, we have a structure in place to raise and resolve data risks and opportunities. So there is a place to go if your data source, if there's kind of differences within data sources, or we don't have access to certain data sources, whatever, there is now a channel that you can escalate that, and it is spoken about with the right people in the room who can make the changes. Something that we're trying to roll out at the moment is our data catalog. So this is all about making it easier to find and access data. So we're using data.world, metadata, tracking it. You can see who owns all the different data sources, you know where to go to request it, but just providing that visibility of what actual data exists within JLR and trying to stop people from sharing Excel files around if we make it really easy for people to access the right systems. Finally, so we have a self-service approach to analytics. We also have a self-service approach to data governance. So providing the right guidelines and policies in place for our users to follow. And all of this stuff here, we probably wouldn't have been able to do this if we'd have tried to have done this 5 years ago when we were trying to roll out Tableau. The reason that all of this has been able to happen for us is that we pushed out Tableau. It was that tool that people could get their hands on. They could interact with it, get excited by it, and then feel the pain points of some of the data issues that we had in JLR, which has then enabled us to be able to focus on fixing some of the foundational elements. But with that, a big part of that is also the enablement piece. So I'm going to hand over to Thierry.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I applied for this job last year to join JLR was to have this opportunity. I've used Tableau before. I know the value of Tableau, so it was an exciting role to join JLR to continue driving adoption of Tableau. But during my interview, something I was impressed, which Amy just mentioned, is to see that our CEO understands the importance of data. And after a year in the company, I can confirm that we can see it through the CEO and the board members and the leadership. So it's very it's a great time currently to be at JLR to see there's a strong buzz around people wanting to learn more and upskill on data. And if I move on specifically to Tableau training, so we have three main objectives when it comes to Tableau training. The first one is to increase awareness of Tableau. So Amy talked about 10,000 Tableau users at JLR. That's a quarter of our workforce. So there's still a lot of work to do in terms of raising awareness of Tableau and moving them from tools like Excel to Tableau to do the analysis and build their skill set. And in terms of pathways, so we are not focusing only on Tableau creators. So we have received feedback from the business that we need to improve people's data literacy, data fluency, or to quote Neil, feedback that he received recently from one of his colleagues at JLL. We want to make data less scary for people at JLR. So there's in our training, there are two pathways for creators and viewers. And eventually through the training, we want to provide a platform so that people can go and know where the training about Tableau are, and they can self-learn Tableau. So we have a couple of initiatives currently at JLR. So on the left-hand side is what we call the BAU sessions or business as usual. So these are all year-round initiatives. And then on the right-hand side, they are Tableau like 6-week campaigns where we are going from functions to roll out Tableau. So I'm going to go a bit deeper on each of these. But just before, I'm going to just pause here. So we have Amy and I at JLR, who are the main two people in the enablement team working on Tableau. But we will not be here today without the Tableau account team. There are a few people here, and the Tableau professional services team as well. There are a few of them in the room. So we have been working with the Tableau ProServe team since the start of the year to build some Tableau content and design a learner journey as well to help our users. So anyone who is new to Tableau at JLR to know where to start, and then some suggested next steps. And we also design it to make sure that people can consume the data, consume the training based on their preferred way of consuming learning. So we have live sessions, we have e-learning, we have on demand as well. All the live sessions that we do at JLR are recorded. And since the start of the year, we have at least one Tableau live event each week at JLR. So as you can see on the bottom left here, there are two pathways as well. So creators and viewers, these are all embedded on our Tableau portal on a Tableau dashboard. So it looks something like this with a viewer path and then a creator path. And then when you click on each of these, you have more detail as well, so people can sign up and watch the content. I want to highlight one of the training as well, where we have Tom from the ProServe team in the room, has created this training from scratch, which is, we have received very good feedback from this, which is very customized for JLR, where, so this is dummy data, of course, but it's targeting all users, so creators and viewers, and it's the purpose of this training is to get people familiar with Tableau Online, and which is the tool that we use, the platform that we use, and make sure that they are familiar. So there are a few questions that allow them to get familiar with a platform, and then there's a race track which has been built, and then they can select the brand and the type of cars as well, so which is quite cool. And then we have a 6-week rollout as well that we have launched about 5-6 months ago. And the reason being, think of the previous, like the all year round initiatives have been more kind of a pull approach where we communicated to the business, anyone can sign up. This one is more kind of a push approach where we are working closely with the functional leaders, with the comms leaders to make sure that the message around Tableau is personalized to each function. It's the same approach. So we have two pathways, creator, viewers, and we want to build communities as well in each of these functions. And we are leveraging as well the existing content. So for viewers, the Tableau awareness interacting, the e-learning, some specific creator content as well in terms of live training and practical workshops around various main features of Tableau, like calculation, line charts, bar charts, dashboard best practices, sorry. And then the community aspect as well. So we want to drive that. So in 6 weeks' time, it's hard to upskill an entire function. So we want to train the people in function to take ownership of some of the lunch and learn, so providing them with some content so that they can pick and run their own awareness sessions and then office hours in function.
So we're all here because we all like Tableau, and Tableau is a massive part of our digital transformation journey, but it's not the only piece. And it's just one of the many important data training initiatives that we've got going on at the moment across JLR. So this is our pyramid on the left-hand side of all of the different training programs that we have available at the moment. Tooling trainings, Tableau's in the middle of it, but foundationally at the very bottom, we have a data fluency piece. So we've been rolling out Tableau for years. We've been doing Tableau training sessions focused on our creators, but we were often getting that comment of, I'm really struggling to actually roll out these dashboards and get my end users to be engaging with them. So we've taken a step back and we have built data fluency. For us is about building a common awareness and language for JLR data use. So it's 5 modules that we built it in-house. It starts with what is data? Why is it relevant? Some examples from your personal life. The one we always kind of go back to is like when you're using your sat nav and you're making your journey decision based on data off of other people. Really trying to kind of normalize it. And then it goes on into kind of terminology of data within the business, some of the risks and opportunities. It's not about using data as such, but it's really just trying to build that common foundational awareness. So we've got 5 modules. We built them in collaboration with our Learning Academy in-house, and they're available on our internal platform at the moment. I think we've had about 2,000 people start completing those courses, and some functions have made them mandatory training for everybody within that business area. And at the other end of the pyramid, we have an apprenticeship program. So we've partnered with Multiverse to deliver this training program, but it is a 14-month program, combination of coaching, instructor-led training, e-learning, project-based work. It is an apprenticeship program, so it does require 20% of an employee's time. But we have almost 500 people who have recently started on this program. And this data fellowship program that we're doing starts with Excel. Tableau is one of the modules in it, but it also has SQL and Python and machine learning and loads of other stuff as well. So it goes much broader than we can deliver in-house.
So there's a lot, as you can see, going on. Just bringing this back to Tableau when it comes to engaging with our community and in terms of communication. We have a few channels that we are providing visibility to this group. So I'm not going to walk through all of these. I'm going to go a bit deeper into the champions and gamification program in a while. But we have a Tableau portal, which is a SharePoint site, which is a central hub for all the information that people need about Tableau, from what is Tableau, how to get a license, some of the governance and security around Tableau, and then all the training materials and doctor sessions booking as well that you can do through the portal. We have a newsletter as well that we send every other month, and then some of our channels as well. So we use Yammer as one of the channels to support and provide updates as well to our users. But just coming back to the champions and gamification, so I was lucky to set up a Tableau Champions program earlier this year. So that was launched in May this year, and the objective was to scale and extend the mission of our data office and help us drive adoption of Tableau inside the function. And we're also our main point of contact. So for any event that we want to organize in the function, or any feedback that they have about Tableau. So on the right-hand side, this is just a one-pager that I sent out to promote the program and ask people to sign up with managers' approval as well. So it's very important for it to be successful to have managers' approval. So from this first wave, we have 65 champions across all business, across all part of a business who have been selected to be part of this program. They went through a 2-week boot camp, which were 4 sessions around telling them more about the program, some of the resources available to them. More than 50% of this group to date has been certified Tableau champions. So at JLR, to become certified Tableau champions is we are just leveraging the community leader badge on the e-learning page, on the Tableau e-learning platform, sorry. And so yeah, we have 50% of this group that are currently certified. And we are also catching up with this group on a fortnightly basis to provide them with any new update on latest Tableau release, anything that they need to be aware to be able to cascade that in their own function. One other thing is gamification. So we had 2 digital graduates in the data office earlier this year to build this gamification, which is the data come from the Tableau logs on Tableau Online. And the reason behind was to encourage people to do more with Tableau and explore a bit more Tableau. Amy and I both sit in the strategy and sustainability function at JLR, so it gives us a view on how our functions are doing to compare to other functions in the business. We have a list of a number of people with a skill level, how many grandmaster, for example, and how many newbies in the business, and then a JLR leaderboard. And you have also a specific metric as well at an individual level with a few features of Tableau that we wanted to push out there to encourage people to do more. And then you get some points as well for each of these functions. I know that there's a lot of information here. If you need to retain only one thing from this slide, is this some ahead of Amy currently on this. Then one thing worth mentioning as well, so everything that we do, all the comms, we always make sure to capture success and highlight people's work, because data is just nothing without people, and people are using data, using Tableau to drive business decisions. But as I'm sure many people in this room can relate as well, a few people at JLR as well who are progressing in their career thanks to their Tableau skills. We have an example of Lauren Forden, for example, in our finance team, who has been progressing in her career by learning Tableau, and she has now recently set up her own Tableau Champions Network as well in the finance team.
So to finish and to wrap up, some of our key takeaway messages and things that we've learned over the last 5 years or so. The first one is start small, but think big. You will never be able to like launch a massive training program as such. Like, it's better just to get something out there and get it piloted, but have that big vision. If it's the whole organization that you're trying to train up, then at some point you're going to have to start thinking about how you can swap up your training programs or your community activities or whatever it might be to reach the masses. Secondly, is don't underestimate the power of the community. So as Thierry said, we're the only 2 within JLR focused on the Tableau enablement side, and it's not the only thing we focus on. Training up the champions, getting them advocating for the use of Tableau, getting them being able to run the training programs themselves, support their own users. We've got users now being able to run their own doctor sessions and things like this. It's our only way of scaling it. And then reflect regularly and reiterate. So we are, I don't know what number version of Tableau training, Tableau portal, internal user groups, everything has changed. Started small, but then regularly reiterating them. So we run, there's surveys after every training program, looking at the feedback that people are giving us, making changes. what works for one area within JLR, for example, engineering, might not work for HR or finance. And it's being able to not completely customize and redo everything that you've done, but make sure that you're tweaking things slightly for the different audiences. And that's it for us today. So does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. I got a ton of inspiration. You know how much I love everything you're doing. We've got Paul with a microphone. Has anyone got any questions? If you want to raise your hand.
Okay, start at the front.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for that presentation. I thought it was fantastic and it was great to see a little bit of insight into your journey. You've mentioned it a little bit, you've touched on it already, but you've achieved so much from a community perspective. How did you do that with such a small team? I know that you've used the business and the training area and things like that, but could you just elaborate a little bit more on how you achieved that?
I can start. Yeah. I guess we were not starting. Well, I can talk for the last year that I've been around. We were not starting from level 0. So as Amy mentioned earlier, so Tableau has been around for 5 years. So there were a few people already that we could call upon for any help. And then we wanted to structure it a bit. So with a Tableau Champions program, just having setting clear objectives and roles as well, and responsibilities and time commitment as well for each of the champions. But as part of our application form as well, we were asking them to put down the name of a manager, and it's a bit of manual work as well behind the scene, but getting in touch with the managers to make sure that we can count on their support, because without the support of a manager, they won't be able to support their peers. And then just having through the Tableau portal as well, as much information and making it as visible, and always being communicating as well with that group. So we use over Microsoft Pack at JLR. So I've created a group on Microsoft Teams with a group of champions where we are always engaging and providing updates so that they are to keep that momentum going. I don't know if you want to add anything or.
Yeah, I can add to that. So previously to our engagement with the ProServe team earlier this year, everything that we've done has been built in-house. It's been through either analytics graduates kind of building training material, running training sessions. I think 3 months in to my time at JLR, me and another graduate went up to one of our sites in Liverpool and ran 2 days of Tableau training. We'd only been using it for a couple of months. So just kind of like throwing people into it. It's a great way of learning. And we used to run all of our events and user groups and stuff in-house. The reason, or one of the reasons that we were able to kind of make the change and make the case for expansion and the ProServe team to get involved was the stories. So we had one story, we always use him, it's Ryan. He is a bit of a famous face now within Tableau and within JLR. He was engaging with some of our doctor sessions, but we ended up documenting his use case. And I think he didn't have any formal Tableau training, was just kind of getting involved with some doctor session support, but had a business problem which was valued at £20,000 a week in benefits. He was an apprentice, didn't have any formal training in data and analytics. We used him as if one person within engineering who wasn't in an analytics team with a little bit of help has been able to deliver that. Imagine the value that is being trapped all across the organization. And the storytelling piece is where we were then able to kind of make the case to invest in training. And now we've been able to kind of expand it to without recruiting a load of people to run the training sessions.
We are running low on time, so we'll allow one more question. And then you can come up to Amy and Thierry at the end.
I was just curious about your use of Multiverse. Did you buy something off the shelf with them, or did they customize their offering to what you wanted it to be?
I think it's pretty much off the shelf. You can make tweaks in it, such as like Power BI versus Tableau, GCP versus AWS, and that type of thing. But the content that they are providing us is the standard offering, and we've customized it with additional, like we ran a lunch and learn today on some more of the JLR nuances of stuff, but the training itself is off the shelf.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing. And we're okay to share the slides, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you'll get the slides. Okay.
There we go.
All right. So next up we have Simon. Simon, like I said at the start, Simon is from Storytelling with Data, and he has the most amazing job title of data storyteller. Over to you, Simon.
Sarah? I thought you were going to say most amazing picture for a second. I did take a bit of flack recently for pictures and the fact that some of my images were a little bit dated on social media. Mr. Beaumont, does this one seem a little bit more reflective of? Good. Okay. Good. Thumbs up. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the analytical journeys, the various stages that we go through on those journeys, and to share some little tips and tricks that might come in handy as you go through those respective journeys. A little bit about myself first. I've spent 15 years working in data and analytics within NatWest, and I've moved recently into the world of storytelling with data. I'm a data storyteller within the team. Sarah mentioned it earlier with Cole and the Sparman Affleck, having an amazing time working within that particular team. Now, before you think that's a pretty boring career path, well, I'm here to enlighten you. You're probably right. I've only done 2 main roles. However, I did have some childhood career dreams. I grew up in the county of Kent, the Garden of England. So my dream when I left school was to become a strawberry picker. Okay. So I left school. I got my dream job. I managed to secure a role at this local farm. I went on my first day to see the farmer, went down to the farm, got my punnet, which is Kent Garden of England speak for plastic box, took it down to the field, began picking the strawberries. So this was at 9 o'clock. The sun was shining, beautiful summer's day. Must have got to about 9:15. And I thought, this is pretty hard work. It's already getting a little bit hot. The sun's beating down on me already. The knees are hurting where I'm kneeling down, picking these strawberries. And I don't know if anyone knows that to pick a strawberry, you've got to kind of cut through with your thumb. And that was starting to hurt my fingers a little bit. However, no one ever meets their dreams without a little bit of hard work and sacrifice. So I persevered, made it through to 5 o'clock, took my collected set of punnets up to the farmer, who looks at me, looks at the punnets, looks at me again, looks at the punnets, gives me my hard-earned wages for the day, and then says, sorry, we don't need you back tomorrow. So my dream job was begun and ended in just one day. So thankfully, I'm here to talk to you about the side that I did spend most of my time in the data and analytics side, and particularly looking at those journeys, looking at those stages of the analytical process. So we're going to look at a little bit descriptive, what has happened. Diagnostic, why something has happened. Getting into predictive, what is going to happen. And then finally, prescriptive, what to do about it. Where are you on the journey? You might ask yourself, well, it depends on a number of different factors. It depends on location and quality of your data. You might have a wonderful enterprise data warehouse all stored on the cloud, access for everyone, or you might have a few disparate spreadsheets dotted around on shared drives. Potentially, the analytical maturity makes an impact. Do you have a specialized, centralized data function, or do you have a couple of people that put their hands up one day to say, I like data, and now are the de facto data experts within your teams? And ultimately, acceptance from stakeholders. Do you have that buy-in from your stakeholders to work collaboratively with the data teams, or are you treated more as this server-master type relationship? And the progression through these stages can vary. There's no absolute time limits to each particular stage. You could spend longer in a particular stage than others. Some projects that you work on may involve different stages or multiple combination of stages. But ultimately, the goal here is to get to this prescriptive stage where we are informing our audience about what's interesting with our data and ultimately what to do with it. But we have to start somewhere. So let's start with descriptive and what has happened. When I was working at NatWest, I spent a lot of time working in the productivity team, producing insights and reports, looking at our advisor performance. And I always used to say, when I was undermined by my colleagues working in the exciting worlds of data science and those sorts of areas, that when I hang on a minute, the reporting, that's the engine room. You know, we're putting coal into the engine here. If we can't see what has happened, how can we expect to run a business properly? So descriptive is crucial to any business. And normally it forms by way of dashboards. Not a bad dashboard. It's okay, isn't it? Not too bad. At the moment, though, it is purely descriptive. Garden of England, by the way, that's a fictitious company, in case anyone was wondering. And the wholesalers that we'll talk about are also fictitious. But this dashboard on the screen is perfectly fine, and it would typically be something that may well be sent out by a team working in descriptive reporting. What can we do, though, to enhance this dashboard, to take it to the next level? Well, let's consider the titles, first of all. Dashboards often have descriptive titles. You can see them highlighted here: monthly summary, June report, sales trend by day. If we have the ability to, before we send our dashboards out, can we make those titles active? To see the difference here as you look at this dashboard, it almost draws you in. Strong June results. Oh yeah, okay, I'm going to have a look at this now. I'm going to take a little bit more of an inspection, and you can see the others there as they're dotted around. What about the big angry numbers, KPIs that we always have in our dashboards? Total sales, 52,000, decent, is it? I don't know. Let's add a bit of context to these KPIs. Now we can see, yeah, total sales have gone up by 8,000, but actually, relatively speaking, with the trend that we can see, we're middling, and there are other months where we've done far better. Tables, we always like to smash a table into our dashboard somewhere because that ticks off everything else that we need to know within our reports. Problem with tables is, or the challenge with tables is, our audience takes a little bit of processing time to work through a table. Essentially, we have to read a table rather than consuming a graph using our visual communication system. What can we do with tables to make them slightly easier to interpret? We can use the most basic type of visualization there is, a little bit of heat map. A little bit of heat map calling out those key numbers. Our graph. We've got a dual axis graph. I'm sure many of us have used these in the past. Problem with dual axis is even if it was nicely labeled, a nice legend, there's always a bit of a confusion as to, well, what relates to what? Do the bars mean sales, or is it profit ratio is the line? I'm not quite sure. Often it's just better to split the graphs up. And now as I've done this, I see, actually, I've got a bit of a problem here. I've used a line for the profit ratio to create a relationship between my various wholesalers. These are categorical data points. They're discrete, distinct from one another. So we should probably make these bars as well. And I'm also going to flip them around horizontally. And we'll look at that in a second from a real estate perspective. Finally, with a dashboard, can we add any interesting commentary? Especially if you're going to send a dashboard out, you've got a chance to manipulate it before you send it out. If it's more automated, maybe as a follow-up email or adding notes onto the update that gets sent through, can we add commentary that allows our audience to get into this dashboard without being faced with this wall of data that is sometimes a little bit overwhelming? So we haven't changed much within this. The data is the same effectively. The layout's pretty similar, but the before and after is quite different. We've now gone from this very descriptive dashboard to something that's now a lot more informative. So with the descriptive stage, if we are doing reporting, we are doing dashboarding, can we make it a little bit more informative? Can we change our KPIs to add a bit of context? Can we add some visual cues to our tables, simplify our graphs if we can, and add commentary to inform our audience? Diagnostic, the why. So we know the what has happened, why has something happened? Some sample why questions. Why have our sales gone up? Why have customers left us? Why have comparison periods so different to before? The interesting thing about why here is that now you need a little bit of expertise in two areas. You need to be an expert in the technical detail. So you need to be able to produce the analysis, create the visualization, but you now also need business knowledge. This is always kind of undervalued, in my opinion, when we're looking at recruiting people or maybe looking at an analyst job spec. The business knowledge is absolutely critical. To understand the business, that allows you to create a much more effective communication. So let's say our colleague here has got some business knowledge and has created a bit of a chart for us. And they put some takeaways at the bottom, helpfully indicating why. First of the month, special promotion created record high sales with better buy. I read the takeaway, I look for the first of the month, I can see that, wow, yeah, okay, 4,500, blue line, follow that all the way across, better buy. That took a little bit of time to do that. And without any visual cues to a visualization, to a slide, we will typically, an audience will start at the top left and then work in a zigzag fashion going across. So as a bare minimum, can we put our takeaways at the top? Now we read the takeaways, we find the insight below, find the evidence that the takeaways are mentioning. A really great quote I heard from Cole actually was the pictures reinforce the words that I see or the words that I read. And the takeaways now do this. Can we go better? Yes, we can. We can annotate those takeaways directly, especially when we've got charts like a line chart that give us that little bit more white space. And now we're leveraging some Gestalt principles here, a little bit of psychology. We're leveraging proximity. We're labeling the data directly. And now when you read 1st of June, you see it's right next to the 1st of June, and you can follow along. Can we go further? Yes. Let's use a little bit of similarity of color and connection. We're now pointing to the data point, and we're using better buy in the same blue as the line. So as we now follow it along, we haven't even got to go across to the end of the legend to see we're referring to this particular wholesaler. So key points around diagnostic. The why needs a little bit of two things. It needs expertise technically, but also from a business perspective. Can we write our key takeaways out, which explain the why, and then can we begin to use things like proximity, similarity to emphasize those key takeaways? Predictive, the crystal ball. Everyone wants to know what's going to happen. All businesses spend a huge amount of time, money, and effort trying to work out what's going to happen. Think about fraud teams trying to understand when and where the next fraud might occur. Credit teams wondering whether the next client may or may not default on their loans. Product machinery teams seeing if a particular product or piece of machinery will likely fail in the near future. And there are many different ways of making these predictions, going from very simple Excel formulas through quite sophisticated pipeline capturing tools, all the way through to the most advanced AI machine learning tools. But ultimately, any predictive element needs a few simple statements. We need to understand what the problem is, what question are we trying to solve, what elements need to be predicted, and therefore what actuals do we need to feed into that model to make those predictions, and then what does a successful outcome look like? And irrespective of how we've made these predictions, whether we've gone for full Excel formulas or whether we've gone absolute AI machine learning technical models, we will get some kind of output, some kind of table, some kind of data set. As you can see here, this is more of a simple data set. But we've got our 4 wholesalers here from before, and we've got some forecast numbers for the next 6 months or so. So now we've got some actuals and we've got some predicted elements. How then can we think about focusing our audience's attention on those predictive elements? So when we talk about focusing attention, we're talking about emphasizing the key points, using things like size, color, position, to really call out to our audience the things that really matter within our communication. And we can take a step back from this when we think about focusing attention and think about where are our eyes drawn. And this is where we look at a graph, a chart, a slide, a piece of content. We close our eyes for a second or two, and then we open our eyes and see where our eyes go to. And if our eyes go to where we think and hope they should go to, tick, move on. But if they don't, that's likely where our audience's eyes will also go to, and we might need to take steps to adjust our visuals. So I'm going to put a graph on the screen here. Where do your eyes go here? Fruities, okay, cool, because it's at the top, I guess, probably. Any advance on fruities? No. Everywhere, anywhere, nowhere, bored? Okay. Ultimately, though, nothing has been done here to draw attention to any one point of focus, any one point of emphasis. And so our eyes go everywhere, anywhere. We aren't drawn to at a particular point. Let's say, though, we do want to focus on fruities and the forecast element of fruities that we've taken such great steps to predict. What can we do here to emphasize this particular line? A few strategies we have at our disposal. That works. I would suggest that there are more elegant ways to emphasize a particular point on a graph, but if you've only got a picture of the slide or something like that, and you just need to give a big arrow on it saying, look here, it certainly does the trick. If you've got a hard copy of the slides about to go into a meeting, sometimes you just got to get your red pen out and circle the thing as well, also known as a little bit of brute force. We could use words. Again, if we don't have access to the data to change the style of the graph itself, just use a little bit of words, again, enforcing and re-emphasizing and priming our audience with what they're expected to see. The fact that there has been an encouraging forecast for fruities. But if we do have access to the data, we can do things a little bit more sophisticated. First of all, let's remove the color. Okay, those colors were assigned by our tool that we created this chart in, not by us. We should be a little bit more thoughtful when we pick our colors and eliminate the colors when we produce our visual for the first time. It also has the handy reminder that it's not quite finished yet. So we're not going to send this out by mistake. We can make the line a little bit thicker. We could make it dashed. That's very attention grabbing as we've taken one line, cut it up into different pieces. And of course, this is normally why and where we would use forecast type displays. Also reference lines, average lines, those sorts of things as well. So let's make those changes for all the forecasts here and move on, focusing attention on fruities. Bit of contrast, black against the gray certainly stands out. If we were to do the where are your eyes drawn test here, that would be very prominent indeed. Color works as well. Again, if we use it sparingly, we could remove everything else. Bold strategy, of course, as we've now removed any potential context that we may have seen before. But in a live animation setting, we could reverse that strategy, put everything else back on, and then say, watch as I just put Fruity's forecast on the screen. And you see that quite attention-grabbing change of animation there. Data markers and data labels, very attention-grabbing, but really we're emphasizing everything within this forecast. We could be a little bit more strategic about these as well, maybe the start and end points. But really the power of this comes when you combine these elements together. And now you can see we've got a title. Fruities is in the blue. We see that, we cool down, we look at that, we see the blue line. Forecast banding is in blue there, and we have our strategic data labels and data markers. So before and after is quite striking, going from a graph that really there is no real visible emphasis, no real clear message, to something where there is a clear message of what we're supposed to be looking at within this graph. So the predictive stage, the key points here, understanding, of course, what the use case is and what we're trying to achieve from making these predictions, differentiating our predictive numbers from our actual numbers, and using those elements within our disposal, things like color, size, position, to help emphasize those key numbers, in this case, our predictions. But of course, our goal, as we mentioned earlier, is to get to the prescriptive stage where we are now informing our audience what is interesting about the data that we're showing and what they should be doing about it. And ultimately, this is explaining our data, explaining what we have found when we've done our exploratory work. We do a lot of exploratory work in Tableau, Excel, whichever tool we might be using. We found something interesting. We now need to explain it. And of course, what to do with it, or our suggestion at least of what to do with it. To explain things, very simply, we need words. So can we add words to our data? Often we just think about data as numbers. How can we combine words with that as well? And then how can we use words as part of an overarching narrative, an overarching story to present that compelling case? Take a look at data with words. You can see there's some data here and we've got lots of words. Let's run through this very quickly. Graph title, axis titles, exceptions to not labeling your graphs clearly are rare. Just because you know what this information is representing, it doesn't mean your audience does. Don't let them make any misassumptions by not labeling things clearly. Talked about this already, annotating important points directly on your graph. Footnotes, very useful use case for words here. Get some important context down at the bottom within the overall slide, but it's not detracting from the main visual. And here we can put data sources, publication dates, acronym busting, any other types of context. Slide title, often underused and prime real estate, and underused with things like monthly summary, descriptive titles. What can we put in our slide title that will engage our audience to then read on further? And then finally, our recommendation. What do we want our audience to do? And when we talk about action here, we're not saying go into your next meeting and say, we found this, you must do Y. We're not saying that action can mean a number of different things. It means let's explore, let's try and understand, let's think about implementing, let's engage, let's discuss. Ultimately, you found this thing that's interesting, you're showing your audience and you're suggesting on a recommended path of action. Ultimately, beginning the discussion, starting the conversation. When we think about that conversation, we think about the narrative behind it. The most simplest narrative that we can think of, going back to stories and how we tell them, of course, is the plot, the twists, and the ending. How can we think about plot in a business context? Well, that's, of course, what background do we need to prime our audience with? What do they need to know about to get them onto the same page as us? The twists, what is interesting about our data and what does it show? Keyword here being interesting. If you can't think of something useful to say about a particular slide or content or a recommended action or something to think about for your audience within that content, consider why we're showing it at all. And then finally, our ending, what do you want your audience to do? What is that recommendation? What is that action? Now, if we were to present live some of our Garden of England data by way of a presentation, it could look and sound something a little bit like this. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we have two goals for you. First of all, to take a little bit of a look at the Q2 results for Garden of England Limited, and also make some strategic suggestions based on our average order price. Now, in Q2 2022, our latest quarter, we had just over £133,000 worth of sales. Now, that's up 11,000 from the previous quarter, but it is down 2,000 from Q2 of 2021. Let's take a look at those quarterly numbers in a bit more detail now. You can see here we're going back to Q1 2019 all the way through to our latest quarter, Q2 22. And we're looking at our sales ranging from £0 to £250,000. If we plot on 2019, we can see an interesting shape, starting off in Q1, but then ramping up as we get towards Christmas. Christmas, by the way, is our key time. Q4 is our massive peak. Very similar shape in 2020 as we go down in Q1, but then ramp up as we get towards Christmas. And again in 2021. Reaching a peak sales of 240,000. We were a little bit worried at this stage, thinking that these results may detriment our following year, and we did see a little bit of that, but thankfully we have seen a bit of a recovery into Q2 of this year. And if we look at the Q2s in comparison, because we are a very seasonal business, you can see we've got a bit of two halves here. 2019 and 2020, quite low, around the £90,000 mark, but a lot higher for 2021 and this year, 2022, well above the Q2 average. I'm going to take a little bit of a look now into our wholesalers in a bit more detail. I'm going to look at a comparison between Q2 of 2021 and this quarter. And I'm going to look at the number of orders processed by our 4 wholesalers. Now, as you can see, the increase from 3 of our wholesalers here, Fruity's, Better Buy, Meeting Place, all increased the number of orders. Just the grocers had a decrease from that previous year's quarter. Reason being was the lack of skilled workers, particularly in the strawberry picking industry. But this was interesting because if orders are going up, how come we're behind? We're £2,000 down compared with Q2 of the previous year. It can only mean, therefore, the volume and the value of those orders was decreasing. So we took a look at the average sales prices, and that indeed was the case. 3 of 4 of our wholesalers saw a decrease in the average amount of orders processed, and just the Meeting Place saw an increase. The reason for this was in Q1 of last year, we introduced a premium meat range, higher quality, higher value meat products, which clearly caught the attention of our audience, who bought more with us, and of course, at a higher price. So that leaves us with our recommendation of today. We believe we should implement and roll out similar premium product ranges for our vegetable and fruit sections that will increase the number of orders and maintain those number of orders, but also increase the average sale price. Thank you for your time. This slide here could be used as an exec summary, static takeaway, a follow-up to the meeting. You wouldn't want to put this on the screen and start talking to it because people are going to read it in their own time, probably not listen to the person presenting, but certainly by way of a follow-up, it covers the same information, it covers the same elements of story, and it has that final recommendation too. So the prescriptive stage, what do you want to tell your audience? What do you want them to do? And then combine those words with your data to create that story and that powerful memory. If you like what you heard there, hopefully you did, then we do offer a number of custom workshops within Storytelling with Data. Just check out storytellingwithdata.com custom workshops, or speak to me afterwards, or email inquiry@storytellingwithdata.com. I'm also very happy to come to your various companies and do talks similar to this as well. So just reach out to me and speak to me afterwards for that. Also very excited to say that the latest book from Cole has been released. Is a copy over there, I think, by way of a prize for one lucky person to receive. It covers the concepts of planning, creating, and delivering a stellar presentation. And the presentation isn't purely data focused, it can relate to any type of presentation. So it really is a good general book for any of you who are looking to improve presentation skills. Final recap. So descriptive, if you're in this stage, you're working with reports, regular dashboards, can you allow those dashboards to inform your audience? Diagnostic, can you annotate the why directly using those Gestalt principles, proximity, similarity? Predictive, can you apply focus to those specific parts that you want to highlight? And then prescriptive, explain your data with words. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I attended a workshop with Cole and Simon a few weeks back, and I can highly, highly recommend it. So if you like what you saw, do reach out to Simon so we can maybe have more workshops in the UK.
Absolutely, that's the dream.
We've got time for one question. We've gone slightly over time. So hand went up over there.
Here we go. Be kind, Mo.
Thank you very much for that, Simon. That was fantastic, really clear. Notwithstanding that different organizations are in different places and things happen at different times, as you alluded to at the beginning, using your kind of experience, where do you think most teams, organizations, and individuals kind of get stuck on those 4 stages?
Yeah, I think a lot of people spend a lot of time in the descriptive stage and think that their role is just to pump out dashboards and reports. Whereas actually it really is as important to think about what you're sending out. And even if you're just providing 1 or 2 bullet points of commentary, beginning to then understand the business to be able to provide that commentary, which then kind of almost flows naturally into the next phase anyway, the diagnostic. I think those 2 parts is where people get really stuck. The predictive is slightly differently because you need different tools to be able to apply those elements. But certainly I think if a lot of people are in that dashboarding phase, just applying those thoughts around, well, what can you do with this? What is it telling me? Gets you into the business more, and also just shows that you care a little bit more about what you're sending out, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon. As Simon said, we have some books over there that will be given out as
Yeah.
prizes in the quiz, which is going to come shortly. So we're going to take a quick break now for about 10 minutes and then just try and grab a drink, come back, and then we'll start the quiz. So if you're late back, then you won't win. See you all in 10 minutes. I've ever been a part of. So fingers crossed it works. Let me know when it is.
Yeah.
So they can see your screen on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're thinking,
Bear with us. We've just got some technical issues.
I think he's going to change something.
Yeah.
He's
If you are
changing-
joining us online, we're going to get the Kahoot up on the screen in a second. You won't be able to win any prizes, unfortunately, but you're welcome to play along anyway. Or just quiz, just test yourself.
Don't be silly.
I have the alarm every time you think. So basically,
Yeah.
bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My son knows.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So if you're on Zoom, if you can just look at the screen, you can see right here, and not the screen that we're presenting, then you can follow along with the Kahoot. Okay,
There's loads
just
of
give it a few more
stuff
minutes
here.
for these people over here to join. We're nearly at 100. So yeah.
You can switch it. Cool.
All right. I will make a start. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I've got to win this.
Right. I'm going to start now. If you're not in, got 5
Oh, this
seconds.
cost.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's go. Okay, when was the first public release of Tableau software? Was it 2003, 2005, 2004, or 2006? All right. It was 2004. Most people said 2005.
I even made a video about that.
Next.
Chris, Christian, and Pat. Yeah.
And Will is in the lead. Is that Will? You, Will. You can't win everything, Will, you know? All right, true or false? When creating hierarchies in Tableau, you are limited to 3 levels. That is, in fact, false, as most of you said. And Will is still in the lead, but Danny's catching up. Okay, question 3.
You've got to be quick as well.
Who was not a founder of Tableau software? Christian Chabot, Chris Solte, Pat Hanrahan, or Adam Slipinski? Okay, it was, of course, Adam. Most of you said that. See the leaderboard. Oh, Danny's overtaken Will. Anonymous Ahmad. Interesting.
Coming for you.
True or false? Before Tableau 2018.3, Tableau was only available on the Windows operating system. Is that true or false?
Ooh. False.
It was indeed false. Most of you said it was true.
Wait, what?
And we've now got Ollie in the lead. Where's Ollie? Ollie must be.
It didn't work.
Okay, cool.
Could have been in
And then J-Mac. Had to be J-Mac. I
Ah.
don't know. I can see you over there.
knowledge.
All right, question 5. Which is not a Tableau file extension? .tdx, .hyper, .twbx, or .tds? Run in.
Yeah.
Okay, that was .tdx. Most of you said. And we've got J-Mac in the lead now.
Oh,
Lena. Where's Lena? This way, hey, Lena. Try and overtake J-Mac.
I've lost Wi-Fi.
True or false? Tableau developed a product called Visible. Is that true or false?
True.
Paul knows. It was true. So it was actually an app where you could actually like build vizzes on your phone. Is it still available, Paul? No. Okay. See how the leaderboard looks. J-Max up there. Small Paul, you can't win. No,
Why not?
it's not allowed. I think Neil's catching up as well, and you're also exempt. In the data pane, discrete values are which colors? Green, blue, orange, or red? And just to confuse you, they're in different colors on the screen. I didn't write this, by the way. I actually stole it from the Milwaukee Tug, so you can blame them. It's of course blue. And J-Mac is hanging on. Okay, a Tableau workbook can contain multiple data sources from different systems. Is that true or false? Different source systems. It's indeed true. J-Mac is still in the lead, and Alina is making a comeback. Go, Alina. Is that you? All right, question 9. Which of the following data pane items cannot be dragged onto the filter shelf? Measures, dimensions, sets, or parameters?
Oh, just I got it wrong.
It was indeed parameters, as most of you said. And Small Paul has overtaken J-Mac.
Oh.
And Danny B is making a comeback. True or false? You can add additional color palettes to Tableau. Is that true or false? It's indeed true. Martin's climbing up there, and Chris is the highest climber. Which of the following is not a mark type? Gantt, line, donut, or density? It was donut. And Neil has gone into the lead. I'm assuming that's you. Followed by Martin. Where's Martin? You've got to overtake Neil, Martin. You can't give away your own book. If the if part of an expression can return a different data type from the else part, is that true or false? So it's false. Maybe that got a few people. No, Neil's still there. Martin and Natasha. Where's Natasha? Getting climbing up the.
Three
And Will's. I think Will's made a comeback as well. And Mo. All right. Which of the following is not a function? Running average, running sum, running count D. It's running count D or count distinct. And Martin is now in top place, followed by Will and Natasha. All right, 14 of 15. In the data pane, you can choose to group by folders or data source tables. Is that true or false? It is indeed true. Let's look at the table. Oh, Martin's still up there. Natasha and Mo. Where's Mo? Oh, front row. And David T. Where's David T? He's the highest climber. Okay. All right, last question. When using the date part function, which of the following is not a valid value? Is it ISO weekday, day of year, days, or month?
Oh,
Actually, days. They wrote the correct answer is day. So it's
Day.
cruel. So let's see who the winners. In
boom.
third place, we have Alina.
Yeah.
Second place, we have Martin. And in first place, we have Mo. Congratulations. If you want to come and see us at the end, we will sort out your prizes. They're on the table over there. Okay. Congratulations, everyone. All right. After that excitement, I'd like to welcome our final speaker. So we're very fortunate to be joined by Tim, aka Tableau Tim. You might know him from YouTube.
Yeah.
Tim,
Okay.
ready?
Thank you very much. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I think the last time I did a user group, it's about 4 years ago. Does anyone remember what happened?
Yeah.
No air conditioning.
No.
That's what you thought. I was just really stressed. I needed a new t-shirt by the end of the presentation. So hopefully today that doesn't happen. It's a nice cold winter's day. I wanted to talk a bit about the Tableau platform in general. The Tableau platform is something obviously I talk a lot about on my YouTube channel. Just a show of hands, who here is a customer of Tableau? Okay. Who here works for Tableau? Okay. And who here has watched my videos? Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. You're in the Tableau Tim community right now. Never mind Tableau. These are my links. I'll come back to these in a second. What is the Tableau platform State of the Union? Now, this is not original. There's two State of the Unions you probably all know about. The one on the left, kind of pertinent at the moment in America, midterms, lots of discussion about that. This is not about politics today. I'm going to be doing something more like Apple. Apple have something called WWDC, WWDC, developers call it DubDub. And at that event, they have something called the Platform State of the Union, where they basically talk developers through where the platform is going as a whole across all their devices, whether it's the iPhone, Mac, all the sort of different technologies that Apple makes. And to sort of try and bring you closer to that, I sort of put this image up to kind of relate the different parts of the sort of what happens with Tableau now, Salesforce and Apple. So we have conference, everyone knows conference. Who was at conference? Yeah, great, amazing. Devs on stage, we've all seen devs on stage. Francois leads a cohort of amazing developers on stage to show us what's new. WWDC, the same thing happens. We maybe see new features in iOS, new features in macOS. But when it comes to the platform state of the union, which is what Apple do, we're kind of more used to seeing forward-looking statements from Salesforce, right? We don't talk about the future, none of that. And if you ask Tableau developers generally, I think they kind of hide behind this statement. But I actually think it's really important to talk about where you're going in the future, because it kind of gives a signal and it helps us understand when there's a change coming. Because I think more recently, we've seen a lot of features and we've been like, who's asking for that, right? And if you're sort of not paying attention to the clues, you start to realize actually Tableau's been telling you all along, right? And there's lots of different places you can kind of go to kind of find this information. So if Tableau went do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the platform state of the union as a stakeholder. And I think it's important to do that because the Tableau platform has become this, I think, a behemoth. It's huge. There's so many parts of it that I think no one person in this room could actually understand the whole entire platform. It's just too big. And we're having to start to find experts in all these different areas to try and understand how to sort of keep in touch with it. And so just sort of to set expectations for today, I'll tell you what the State of the Union is, covered by a nice zoom image at the top. We're going to take a step back. We're going to try and look at the current vision, not through my perspective, not my opinion. We're going to look at the actual features. What has Tableau released over the last 4 years? I'm going to show you a couple of hidden gems that I think are really useful, but unfortunately they're hidden because they sit behind a paywall. So we'll come to that later. And then the challenges we still face. You know, what are we still asking for? What have we been asking for years and still don't have? And why might that be? Is there a different vision that's maybe leading to that becoming an issue? I'm not going to talk about value proposition, comparison to competitors, or critique pricing strategies. That's boring to me. I'm more excited about features. That's what I do. Okay. So there's also a bit of audience participation as we go throughout the event. So I sort of really want you guys to get involved. Let's take a step back. Who got the answer correct about when the first version of Tableau was released? Okay. Pro points, if you've got your hand up, if you can tell me what it was actually called at the time. Solaris. That was the original name for Tableau before it became Tableau, Solaris. If you Google it, you'll see a nice little image, and you would not believe how much of it looks identical to Tableau today. It's actually unbelievable. So Google Tableau Solaris, and you'll see the white paper by Christian and Pat, and they talk through the platform and what they thought the platform would look like. And so a lot of us sort of learned Tableau in this realm. There was only 4 products. There was desktop, this was like the Trojan horse for the Tableau product. This is what landed on people's laptops. Then they went to IT with it and they said, hey, can we get the server? And this is what really grew Tableau. And then the server became this thing that was sitting underneath someone's desk. This is back when the cloud was basically nowhere and you actually had physical servers under people's desks. And so people would, sneak a server into their office, they'd run Tableau on that. And IT would turn up and go, what's this? And then Tableau figured out we need a much bigger way of sort of getting people excited. So then came Tableau Public to get people excited. And you've all taken part in some sort of Viz contest, I'm sure. And then there was also this sort of problem that Tableau needed to get it to even more people. So they came up with their version of Adobe Acrobat Reader, which was Tableau Reader, right? They don't talk much about that anymore. They don't like to talk about that at all. It's all about the cloud now. So this was it, 4 products, 4 humble products, sort of vying for your attention. And actually, I think a lot of us were part of that sort of hype train, right? And Then Tableau started to talk about things like the blueprint, how to deploy Tableau, how to piece it together. And on the left, you have sort of the old version of what used to be called the Tableau platform. And, right in the middle here, it's filled with all these, buzzwords you see in analytics, collaboration, governance, data prep, access. And then, winged by security and compliance and extensibility and APIs. You hear these terms across pretty much every analytics platform. But on the right, since the Salesforce acquisition, I think I'll argue it's matured a little bit. There's a lot more in there now. It's starting to feed into lots of different parts of Salesforce and also other tools across the analytics platform. And we're starting to see it really become a platform. And I'll sort of highlight the parts of the platform that we're used to seeing. Everything in red is sort of the traditional, if you used Tableau 4 or 5 years ago, these are the things that we've all sort of become used to. And now that Tableau has come in, as this guy here, Einstein, he's coming in with AI and ML, whether it's Einstein, augmented analytics, I'll talk a bit about that later, data management, all of this stuff is now sort of really front and center. And I don't think it's any coincidence that these two are like front and center, sort of Tableau telling you, get these, this is the good stuff. I kind of half agree with that, but we'll get into that a little bit more. And so this is what the platform looks like now. We've even had the licenses changed to sort of match this new way of working. And we've got the creator who pretty much gets access to everything. Desktop and prep being sort of the key offering there, whether it's in the browser, you'll hear that a lot, or on desktop. Then you've got the creator, explorer, and viewer who get access to cloud, server, and CRM. The reason I've grayed out like server is because, everywhere you go, I think Tableau only talk about the cloud at the moment. Even on the product pages, you actually have to scroll down now to find Tableau server. That never used to happen. It's sort of a new thing. And all the demos, if you've been paying attention to all the demos of Tableau, I've not seen a single person from Tableau demo Tableau in desktop. It all happens in the browser, has been for the last 2 months. In fact, the day I see it, I'll be like, wow, what happened to web authoring, So I think it's a pretty big signal that I think that is sort of where the direction is going. Then on the right, we've had sort of the entrance of what Tableau doesn't like to call add-ons. I didn't say that, they did. Okay, and so we have data management and advanced management, and then we've got Einstein which has sort of been co-opted from the Salesforce family as well. And the reason I've put these on the right is because they do kind of span all these users in a way. Obviously, it's not free, but nonetheless, if you're a creator, explorer, or viewer, you can actually benefit from these particular capabilities. And I actually think, they're the kind of features that work really well alongside the cloud products because, again, we'll look at this later, the cloud product is getting a little bit more of the attention. Then on the bottom, we've got public, mobile, bridge, and reader, which I've grayed out even more because, again, it's even been deleted from all the platform architecture diagrams that Tableau do. But if you browse the Tableau website and you really hunt for it, you will find the download and you'll be able to sort of grab it. So that's sort of the platform at a high level view. So what's the current vision? And this is a slightly difficult thing to answer. So if you go to the Tableau website, I don't think this has changed. We help people see and understand data. Our mission today remains the same as when we first started. Help people see and understand data. But if I highlight a couple of things, or one thing actually, it's the people and everyone. What I think has changed is who they're helping. I think when Tableau first came as a product, desktop or server or all these products, they were helping what I would call the early adopters, us, the people who build dashboards, the people who help drive these strategies, the people who onboard users, the people who teach people. Now, I think they're focusing on a different audience, and I'm not going to give up the answer away because, content creator, I like to withhold the carrot until the very end. And so for this, I'm going to take you on the journey with me instead, and we're going to have a look at this. Who's seen this? Yeah, if you haven't seen this, this is such a useful tool. It's called the Tableau Release Navigator. It's hosted on Tableau Public. It's hosted in multiple languages now as well. And what it does is it shows you what's new with Tableau, and it goes all the way back to 2019. I absolutely love it because it gave me for the first time a data source with all the features in it. That's literally the only thing I really wanted from this, because every single time a new version comes out, if you've ever tried to keep in touch with these things, it's actually quite hard to find one place that accurately tells you what's new, what's changed, and more importantly, what's broken. So this is really super useful to use. So what I did is I grabbed the underlying data source, and pretty sure this is where I leave the, I leave the presentation. Actually, I've got one more slide. I grabbed the underlying data source, and what I did is I scraped it, and then I went through and manually categorized 810 features into some high-level groupings that I thought made sense to me. This is my platform State of the Union after all, right? So before we go through that, I'd love to see what you guys come up with. So what I'd love you to do is go to this URL, enter this code, or scan the URL, and I'd love you just to, in 2 words, describe what kind of features you'd love to see Tableau focus on. You can enter it multiple times, so if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that, and then I'm going to have to log into the app that I'm using to do this as well. Where are we? So I'll leave it on screen for a bit, so just give you like a couple of minutes. It's super interesting. I actually did this with Tableau Prep. Initially, I had like a smaller version of this talk for Tableau Prep. And what was interesting to see is that for Prep, a lot of the things that came up were around new features, because Prep is a fairly young product. I think if we go to the ideas page on Tableau community, you see a lot of features that are actually quite, been around for quite some time. So hopefully, show of hands who's submitted something already. Yeah, come on, let's get more people going. And then I'll switch screen. I want to leave this on here because as soon as I switch, the screen doesn't stay up. So hopefully people on Zoom can also see this nice and clearly. So yeah, they should be able to do it. Okay. So some context here. I had to switch laptops minutes before this presentation. So now I need to go to the results. Hopefully you've all had time to look at this. There we go. Oh God, so glad that worked. Formatting. I'll reliably tell you now, that is not what Tableau has been working on in the features list. It's very late. But if I look at some of these other ones, design, Python interactivity, more graphs, parity, I think that relates to web authoring, annotations, Sankey charts, even chart, people asking for specific chart types, user functions, so many interesting things there, responsive design, better visualizations, but the one word, I love that formatting came up multiple times, and it's one that I gave you 2, you only chose 1, amazing. So that's sort of telling, right? That's sort of what Tableau, that's what you guys in this room, at least, maybe the people watching online want to see. But if I now go back out to my presentation, we're gonna go on a wild journey with Tableau Cloud live. So let's log into this and make sure this all works. So yeah. Have I not spelled my name correctly? Oh God. Don't laugh at me, guys. I have dyslexia. Come on. It's just a joke. Here we go. No. Oh, here we go. There we go. One more time. Yeah, that's definitely correct. And for a second, looking at me like, what are you doing? Nope. Perfect. Seamless. Yeah, I deliberately chose an account that didn't have 2-factor because that would have been a bit of a weird journey. So we're straight into a project. And this is a project I've set up just for fun. Out of interest, who can tell me what this is? Just put your hand up and shout. What is this? What is this icon with full name talking about? What type of asset is that? Sorry? No? So I'm talking about this one. Who's seen it before? Yeah, no one. It's a data role. Does anyone know what a data role is? No. Okay, who's done mapping? You've all done maps, right? Yeah. when you right click on a city and you go down to geographic and you say that this is a city, that's a data role, right? And in Tableau Prep, surprise, surprise, the only tool in the whole platform that can create and use these, you can create data roles. So I created a data role here that tells you whether someone's name is actually a name that you can see in the database. So I threw that in just as a curveball because I didn't know what that was until I had to demo the data management add-on. And I realized, oh, wow, you can do that with that. So it's a pretty cool thing. Anyway, the sidetrack. We go into this workbook, please work. I need to edit it. Don't worry, it's a blank sheet. Don't panic. Here we go. Tableau saved my draft. I didn't want it to do that. So let's just clear the sheet. And if I'm really slow here, it's because I'm using a touchpad. So let's clear all the sheets. So I scraped all the features and I brought them in. Let's do a very basic viz. How many features? 808. There's a couple of duplicates. I deleted them. That's all that is. Let's put this on size. Get a tiny little square. And what I'm going to do is I'm first going to bring in the versions. Okay. And then what we can do is we can put this on columns. Just trying to channel some of Simon's advice from earlier on. I'm gonna rotate it this way because it's kind of versions going across the bottom. So there's a pretty big blip in 2022.2. Does anyone know why? No server release for the first time ever to have sort of back-to-back quarter releases. So is it a bit of an anomaly with this data set? I'll have to feed back to whoever's building it. It doesn't include any historical Tableau Cloud features. For some reason, the Tableau Cloud features kind of get wiped apart from the current release. So there should be some features here for Tableau Cloud. And in fact, there should be more going back. But if you just treat it as a server, prep, and desktop data source, server, at least in 2023, has the same set of features. So, okay, we've got our features, lots of features. Tableau is not sleeping on stuff. They're releasing a lot of things. The first thing I wanted to do is just look and see how many of these features sit behind the add-on. So let's bring that on. And again, because I pre-selected a color, it's sort of dimmed out the stuff. So actually, quite a lot of the features, especially if you go back historically, sit behind the add-on. And it's not a bad thing. It does make sense if Tableau is delivering value to have more things sit behind the add-on. But I think the problem comes when people don't have the add-ons and don't realize some of the benefit that those add-ons offer. So just as a show of hands, how many people who are customers of Tableau have the data management add-on? Right, a very small number of people. There's actually a ton of value. I think there's some amazing hidden gems inside of that add-on. And I think you probably don't have it, maybe because you're still on your journey, and Tableau does sell it as a data maturity kind of add-on. You kind of get the add-on to help accelerate your path towards data maturity. But actually, I think there's some stuff in there that everyone should have access to, regardless of sort of where you are in the journey. The next thing I wanted to do is to just sort of categorize these features a little bit. And again, this is completely arbitrary. So let me put this on size. And I came up with this feature type column, and we'll just put that on color. Okay. Let's put this feature type on label as well. So this is all the features for the last 4 years. Tableau catalog sits behind the data management add-on. It's a pretty chunky size. AI and ML, that's augmented analytics, so data stories, ask data, explain the viz. All of these things sit behind AI and ML. Analytics, sort of lonely small part of the chart there. Spatial analytics really go together. Data prep is its own product. That's pretty much all the new capability in Tableau prep. But surprise, surprise, the biggest sort of things in here are connecting to data sources. So Tableau adding lots of new data sources, the experience of using Tableau. And what I did with experience is I basically went to any feature that existed already that Tableau basically improved and call that an enhancement of the experience, right? Because you're just making the experience better. You're not adding anything radically new. You're giving people a setting and changing it. So it's a feature, but it's not necessarily adding. It's not a cumulative addition to the setup. And then infra generally relates to Tableau service, ways of running Tableau server a little bit better. So a lot of the features actually make a lot of sense. But the thing is, if I take dashboarding, I can tell you that a lot of the dashboarding capabilities have not been formatting related, and the formatting came out as one of the biggest things. I think we all agree with that. We'd all love better formatting, yeah? Yeah? Yeah, cool. Come on, shout louder. They're right there. Thank you, yes. Formatting, louder. Dashboarding's right here, and there's not much in the dashboarding. Actually, all credit, 2022.3 zone visibility, that's a pretty nice thing. It's not really formatting, but it's a nice addition to the dashboarding. We've had a lot of things to do with mobile layout, but man, web authoring, I think has stolen the show here, because the problem with web authoring, or what I think is the problem, is that it doesn't add anything new. You're just taking what's already there in desktop and putting it on the web. So what I see, I think web authoring stolen all our formatting time, right? Like all the effort's gone into copying stuff across. And if you try and like, one thing that catches me out, like in desktop, I'll show you here because we're in browser. I always double click on these colors. Doesn't work here. I was like, God, all my muscle memory is gone now. I have to right click, edit colors, and then I got to go here and then change and apply it. So everything is coming across, but it's also not coming across in the way that you think. So like I'm not really in the position to sort of really comment whether web authoring has stolen, formatting time. But every time Tableau release a feature about web authoring, I'm sort of in my head, I was like, well, that's nothing new to me. Desktop is still the same. And until it's almost 100% parity, you're never going to use it, because every time I've had faith, go on, web authoring, let's go. Oh my goodness, do you hit the wall really fast, right? Really fast. So until someone tells me genuinely, the desktop product, it's now a web product like Tableau Prep, then I'm really not going to sort of go across. Now, if I go back to my presentation, there is sort of one concern I have with going to sort of the browser, but oh, I skipped a slide. I actually wanted to touch on this, sorry, apologies, before I go on to the problem with the browser. If we kind of go back to those features, I've sort of done a very basic diagram here. And if I go back to the analogy I made at the beginning about who Tableau was serving with those 4 products, desktop, server, public, it was actually this crowd, right? This was the creator, what we call the creator today. And we loved all the analytics features. There was, I think it's 2020 when every version was coming out with bangers. I love that era of Tableau. But then more recently, I think Tableau's focus has changed, and that's fine, because for years we've had all the love as creators. Now Tableau is trying to serve the explorers and the viewers. And the problem there is they need help. They need help to become more data literate. They need help to get closer to the data, but they also need help to get closer to us, the creators, right? We kind of all need help getting together. And so I genuinely think there is there's good sort of heart to the idea that they're going to use augmented analytics, data stories, all these features to try and bring people closer. I also just wonder if maybe some of that can help us get closer to people. I think it goes both ways, right? Not just viewers and explorers coming close to us, but us getting close to users and using data as a way to do that. And then, of course, you've still got the community, Tableau Public, really sort of bringing people in from the sort of more freer side of the product platform. And if how am I doing for time? Okay. So if I summarize this very briefly, AI and ML is a way of bringing data close to people. The browser is a way to overcome deployment hurdles. I didn't really talk about this, but I think there is one benefit with the browser, and that is a world where you've maybe even seen this with licensing. Licensing has started to change almost in step with the browser. And I think we're moving to a world where you'll just get your license from the server and the server will be the product. And even if you do download Tableau Desktop, it's just going to be like Tableau Prep, which was actually built on a technology called Electron, which allows you to run web technology as a desktop application. That's how Slack, that's how Skype works. All of these tools are built with web technology and you install them on your desktop, okay? There's also been a big explosion of APIs to allow the platform to become more of a canvas, so things can run alongside Tableau or with Tableau. And of course, the big shift to a cloud-first focus for features and innovation. One thing that has been very apparent is that with the biannual release of Server now, the the release for server seems to say, oh, and this was released in the previous version of Tableau Cloud, and it kind of looks like there's new features, but actually there's half as many features now per year, right? And I don't know, that conversation probably hasn't taken place because we didn't know it was going to happen, but maybe that might happen, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So yeah. And this is my concern with a web-first product. This is Tableau Prep. Who uses Tableau Prep quite often? Keep your hand up if you have issues all the time. Everyone, right? so yeah, like put your hand up twice. Yeah, it's actually a pretty tough experience. I'm not going to lie. Prep is a fantastic product. Don't count me wrong. I love it. I've used tools like Alteryx, and I just love the experience that Prep brings for data prep. But man, the errors, they're tough, and you don't know when they're coming. I actually get scared of new releases because I might see new errors. Thankfully, and there was a slightly funny aspect of the most recent release, Tableau, one of the features was they've added 400 new error descriptions for Tableau Prep. That was actually a feature. So that might help diagnose where the issues are, but I also just hope that we learn some lessons from this experience of a web-first product, and we kind of help improve the platform in general. So now to some hidden gems. I think all of them are hidden behind data management. That's why I use this thumbnail, because column level quality ones, okay, that's not a massive hit, but requires data management. Like so many things require data management to work really, really well. And I think that's a shame. A couple of sort of notable mention, the Tableau catalog. We've heard JLR talk a bit about data catalog as a concept across the organization. Tableau has that as part of its product, and it also has an API, so you can export some of that to other catalog systems as well. So there's like a central view of what's going on. Observability is like a term that's sort of running wild in analytics at the moment in a couple of other tools. The other notable mention here is virtual connections. Because you don't have the data management add-on, it's actually really hard to understand the value that virtual connections have. Who's familiar with virtual connections? A show of hands. Yeah. So for everyone else's benefit, a virtual connection, I think, looks to replace the concept that we've gotten used to with published data source. With a published data source, everyone who creates one creates their own version of a data source, and they publish it up, and then they connect workbooks to it. With a virtual connection, it kind of takes that connection one step above the published data source, which means as an admin, you create a connection to a bunch of tables or a database. You add all the tables you want to be available to the people who are going to have access to this connection. You can build in row level security, so you can say who has access to what and how they have access. And then at the very end of the day, when a creator connects to the data source, they can still see all these tables, but row level security is running on those tables. And if you decide to change one of these connections, it changes for everyone who's connected to that asset. So imagine changing a database or changing a table. You're able to get this sort of high level view of what's going on. And I think it really helps streamline what's happening within the platform. How are we doing for time? We're okay. I'll do a very quick demo. 5 minutes, okay. Virtual connections, then we'll call it a day. So back to Tableau. Again, we go into the browser. I'll close this. And if you're not familiar with virtual connection, I'll quickly show you what it looks like now. 90s Inc. This is a virtual connection. You'll see that when you add a virtual connection, you can see the different tables that are in my virtual connections, and two of them have a data policy, which is being controlled by my employees table, which is added as an entity table, but also users can see that as well. So this is where we kind of go into the realm again. Here we go. Here we go. Nope. I always know it's work when this pops up. Perfect. So here we have 3 tables. They've been added in. You can see that 2 of them have a policy. They're all visible to users. One of the great aspects of this is if you decide to replace or change one of these, you do it centrally, and everyone who's connected to this can get access to it. What does that look like? Well, over in my 90s Inc. folder, I have Tableau Prep Flow that's connected to that virtual connection. Of course, because it's just a normal connection, it works like any other connection you'd expect. Whether you go to Prep or whether you go to another tool, you're able to see it. And going back to my earlier question about data roles, this is actually where that feature lives. So you can see here under full name, I've specified that data role, and it sits alongside emails, images, and so on and so forth. But here you can actually specify this. And it means when anyone else is doing data prep, they can validate that the fields and items they're using actually are part of the data set. The other nice thing about this is this employees table is just made available to everyone so they can see this list. You probably wouldn't do this in an organization, everyone's details. Let's just skip that part. But this top table orders table has a data policy applied. So when I go look at it, let's go to this step here actually. You'll notice that there's only one person who can see these rows. If I go to employee ID, that's me. So it's already applying my policy to this particular set of data and making sure that I only see one line there. So I think virtual connections are such an amazing capability. It's no coincidence it was released with the ability to edit published data source, because I think people would have complained if that didn't come as well. But I think it's a really, really great feature. And so I really encourage you, if you want to play with this, become a data dev, get your Tableau online cloud site, go in and play with it. That's how to do it. Become a data dev, use the features, learn how to use the features, and I think you'll have a really sort of positive experience of that. Right, what do we not have in the product that we want? Let's have a look at this list. Top 16 release features, okay? Let's go back to presenting a slideshow. This is what's been released. And I think what's interesting is how long they've been there. If you look at when they were released and when they were submitted, the average time frame is about 7 years, right? So 7 years to get from I submitted an idea to here it is in the product. And that says more about product development and how you have to battle within an organization to get your idea into a pitch and then come up with a justification for all this stuff. I've talked to so many devs who told me the war stories involved with getting their features through the door. And some of the bangers that we've all loved have come from this ideas page. It's really fascinating when you go to this. At some point, someone should scrape this and really kind of do a timeline of when it was suggested and when it was submitted. Top 16 under consideration. I've highlighted a few here. Some of these are just no-brainers, right? These are just things that we've been asking for now in a decade. I mean, I hate to say that about a product, but yeah, a decade we've been asking for some of this stuff, and it's almost so bleedingly obvious in some cases as well, right? So when we go back to what we're asking for and what's being delivered, I think as creators, maybe the boat has sailed on some of these things, and what we have to do is we have to wait for what is going to be a slower pipeline of stuff to kind of come and meet some of our capabilities. And then in terms of what's open, not even being considered, how wild is that? All of these, they're not under consideration. Can you imagine? And some of these are only 4 years old. I feel sorry for anyone who's submitted an idea in the last few days. There's just no chance. These are, to me, are way more valuable, and they're still here. And so I think there's a lot still to do. I think Tableau, no doubt doing a lot. Maybe Salesforce presents a massive opportunity for us to get a little bit more resource over time. I think COVID did generally have an impact probably as well on the pipeline of features, and the change as well between Salesforce and Tableau also had an effect. But yeah, that's it. That's it from me. I hopefully you've enjoyed this. I'm open to questions right now if you've got any, but you know where to find me. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Tim. That was amazing. We've got time for one question. Go at the back.
Right back.
Yeah.
Hi, you mentioned about data management.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, now the data pipeline, pretty much every tool they come in, they try to be the management tool. Like DBD, they're pushing for the semantic layer.
Mm-hmm.
So Tableau is going from data source pushing backwards. So what do you think eventually going to manage that layer for the end user to use?
Yeah, I think in analytics, there's this trend, I think, across a lot of tools to play well with other tools, essentially. I think it's a bit like who does smart home systems, right? Who has smart home stuff in their home? Who's an Alexa or Google something, yeah? You get one and then you're like, oh, damn, like I have to buy into everything else from this one person for any of this to work. And it's taken 5 years for a company, well, Apple and a bunch of other people to say, actually, let's scrap all that. And as of last week, There's a new standard called Matter, which means all of them are going to work together. That's kind of happening now with analytics. This idea that, okay, one platform is going to be the BI tool, another platform will, maybe bring observability, something else will take charge of catalog. And I think that's the more realistic option, because I think companies also don't want to be wedded to one tool anymore. Things are moving so fast. And with the whole concept of the cloud coming in real quick, people want some flexibility to be able to move and not break their entire pipeline. So I don't think anyone's going to hold off using dbt or any other tool because Tableau is looking at data management. I think quite the opposite. Tableau are probably going to open up more APIs, so tools like dbt can work better with Tableau and vice versa. And I think if you've not seen, Bethany Lyons did a great demo on YouTube. Check it out. Everything she does is amazing as well. But yeah, she did a great video showing how the two work really well together and how it's going to offer performance improvements as well. So it's not just, competition between partners. I think it's also about benefits for the whole entire platform.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I think we have a thank you slide, but you don't need to put it up. It literally just says thank you. There you go. Thank you for joining today. We will share the slides with you tomorrow. If you'd like to migrate over to the other side of the room, we've got food and drink. And if you won prizes in the quiz, you just come to the front and we'll arrange those for you. Thank you.
That works out.